To say that Jay Carty is an unusual communicator is a mild statement. Maybe a little nuts would be more accurate. Not a preacher, not a teacher, more a storyteller with a very important message. Where some deep preachers are too snoozy for the rank and file, and where some humorists don't have much to say, Jay's stuff is generally regarded as an unusual blending of humor and profound content. A former Oregon State basketball star and LA Laker, Jay has dedicated his life to helping people say yes to God. Now, we hope you enjoy Carty's contemporary classics.
I was the rafting was the lure, and I was the fisherman, see? And we had a lot of kids who didn't know Christ because they knew they had to go to the meetings, but they're willing to endure the meetings to go rafting, see? So I'm going to speak to them starting Sunday night, every night. So it's Sunday night. They're all anticipating going rafting the next day, and I've got a spotlight right in my face. Just one massive spotlight. We're staying in an old rodeo fairground in Central Oregon with the wooden steps and the wooden outcropping to keep the rain off, and camped out there amongst the cow pies. And I got one spotlight. I cannot even see the front row, so there's no way to do any crowd control with my eyes. And I can hear everybody buzzing the whole time, elbowing each other, laughing, sneaking off into the bushes, climbing up into the rafters. Bedlam. And I had shadows crisscrossing my face from the bugs flying through the spotlight. Moth. What's more than one moth? What's a plural moth? Mothuses? Okay. So I got mothuses flying through, putting spotlight, They don't want to be there. They're anxious to go rafting. Sunday night, waste of time. All right, now we go rafting on Monday. You take 360 Western Oregonians who haven't seen the sun for over 9 months, and you put them in the sun, on the water, all day. They rust. I mean, it's just what they do. They rust. They become lobsters. They're fried. You bring them home. You feed them. Half of them go to sleep. The other half are wired. They're just wired. And now you put them in the stadium, and I'm supposed to speak to them. I got a spotlight. I can't see nothing. I got Mithrases putting shadows across my face. We got kids elbowing each other, sneaking into the bushes, climbing into the rafters. It's bedlam. Tuesday. In-house play day. Leadership says, Jay, we want you to give the kids a chance to receive Christ tonight. I said, say what? I said, yeah. Well, we haven't connected yet. They don't even know me. They couldn't even tell you my name. I haven't been able to communicate with this group yet. I need some more time. They said, no, we want to work with whoever decides to do that, and we want the rest of the week to work with. So do it. All right. Tuesday night, spotlight. Mothies. Elbows, bushes, rafters, zoo. Till halfway through, and God came on the meeting. I'm sorry to say it's never happened to me since. I'm thrilled to tell you it's happened once in my ministry. Once, like it happened that night, God came on the place. You didn't have to be a believer to know God was there. Because believers, non-believers, they sat in stone silence in the presence of God. People snuck in from the bushes and climbed down from the rafters. There were no open spaces. Everybody wanted to be next to somebody. And the Mithrases, they stopped flying. I finally shut up and let God do what he wanted to. 52 kids came forward that night. But here's the key. That was 13 years ago, folks. And we've counted. There are over 30 of those 52 that are currently in full-time service around the world as missionaries, pastors, youth pastors. It was a phenomenal night. But not George. Nope. Scott had brought him. Scott was 5'10". £260, 4% body fat, a walking manhole cover. And he loved his friend George. He was a good man. And Scott knew that good had nothing to do with it, because we're all onions. And he knew that. Good has nothing to do with it. Relationship has everything to do with it. You're going to let Christ stand before God for you, or you're going to try to stand before God in your own merit. Those are the two issues that has nothing to do with goodness. And he knew his friend George was in trouble, and Scott didn't know what to do, and he'd taken his best shot. He'd invite him, and we had the altar call, and George didn't respond, and Scott was frustrated. And I was in the raft on Wednesday with Scott and George and one other guy. I'm 230, Scott's 260, George is 200, and this guy weighed about 180. We had about this much raft out of the water. It was like paddling a submarine, you know? And we're lining up for a major run, and I hear Scott say to George, "Hey, George, you never know when something might happen. A person ought to be ready." And he throws him out of the boat, launches him. We come to, here comes old George. And we paddle over to him when we got to the still water. And he hadn't bumped his head or anything. He had a life jacket on, so he was okay. And he was sputtering and spitting a bit. And Scott reaches down like a 260-pound, 4% body fat guy can do, and one hands him into the boat. And I looked him right in the eyes and said, "See what I mean?" We didn't know how George took it. We were afraid to look. They didn't speak the rest of the day, and we didn't speak to them. The only sounds were paddle right, paddle left, back paddle right. That's the only. And when we got home that night, leadership said, "Jay, can you do a communion service?" I said, "Well, sure, I can do a communion service." "Did you bring the elements?" "No." "Well, we got 52 kids who never had communion property, so we want to have a communion service. Can you figure it out for us?" I said, "Well, I'll see what I can do." So I go to the cook shack. About all I could find was a box of Kicks. Cereal, Corn Puffs. And I found 6-packs of Welch's grape soda. They weren't Episcopalians. We didn't need bells and smells. I thought it would work. So we had us a communion service about 10:30 at night, the rodeo fairground under the stars. When we got through, Scott and George were sitting there. I went over and sat with them, and Scott said, "Jay, George would like to receive Christ. Would you lead us? It'd mean a lot to me. And then could the three of us have communion together? It'd be really special to me." We rummaged around, found a couple of soggy Kicks, and shook a couple of drops out of the cans of soda, and old George joined us in the family of God that night. You know why? Scott had earned the right in the relationship to throw George out of the boat and not kill the relationship. Let me say it again in case you missed it. Scott had earned the right to throw his friend out of the boat. And George's soul meant so much to Scott that he risked the relationship to make sure he knew the jeopardy that he was in. I was at Hume Lake last summer. I was just leaving the dining room. In junior high camp the night before, we'd had a bunch of junior hires get saved. And the phone rang just as I started to go down the steps from the staff dining room, and someone said, "Jay, there's a phone call for you." There's never a phone call for me at Hume. I go, "It's Scott. He's a youth pastor in New York. His nephew was a junior hire who'd gotten saved the night before, and he called Hume just on the chance of hoping to get me to thank me for playing a part in George's life and now playing a part in his nephew's life." And we cried together on the phone. What a wonderful gift. You see, I can tell you what Scott believes. No question. You know how you can tell? By what he did not by what he says. He threw his friend out of the boat to let him know how important this was. You won't do that unless you understand the value of the soul.
We hope that you enjoyed this week's installment of Carty's Contemporary Classics. We'll join Jay next week for a continuation of his laugh-inducing and thought-provoking insights. Until then, you can catch up on Jay's and many other encouraging and instructive podcasts at the E Squared Media Network at www.e2medianetwork.com.